Today we're going to be working on a 2019 Lexus IS 350. This is the F Sport, and we'll be removing the radio and display to install a VLine 2 in this vehicle. So our first step here is going to be taking off this piece of trim. We're just going to be using a pry tool for that, and you're just going to pry out just a little bit, and then we're going to pull it out towards the back of the vehicle. There we go. So as you can see, we've got these two clips here, and then these up here, and these are the ones that you have to pull towards the back of the vehicle to get loose. And now we'll do the same to the trim on the driver's side. We'll pry on the bottom, and then pull out towards us. And same thing here, two clips on the bottom, and these to pull back towards the vehicle. So now we've got these three screws right here that are uncovered, so we'll go ahead and take these out. And now we'll move on to the driver's side to do the same. And now that we got those removed, we can go ahead and take these panels off. So for these, you're just going to pull towards the outside of the vehicle. And then we'll do the same on the passenger side here. There we go. And now we've got these fully removed. And it's just going to be a few clips along the bottom. So to get the radio out here, we actually have to pull this whole panel out here, the center console. And to get this up, we need to take off the shifter knob here. So you just pull down on the boot like this, and then turn this counterclockwise, and then that'll come off. And then from here we need to shift this back, so we're just going to pry up this little spot here. And this is actually the shifter release, and then we're going to take our key and we're just going to push down in there, and now you can shift back. So now that we've got this shifted back, we're just going to put the cover back on the shift release, and then from here we're going to pick up on this. You might need to use a pry tool, and pretty much we're just going to pry around the entire center console area here. We can actually pull this out as well, the knob mouse controller here, and we're just going to unplug the plug that's right there. And then now we'll continue working our way around. There we go. And then for the front up here, this actually has to be pulled back towards the back of the vehicle. All the other clips are on the back end of it here. So we've got all these removed, just pull back. And as you can see, these are the clips here, and those just seated right into here. And then to take this out further, we're just gonna have to unplug this connector on the bottom here. And then we can lift up. And we're actually gonna have another couple on the back side right here. Unplug that one, and then this other one. There we go. Now that those are removed, we can take this trim out of place. So now that we've got the trim out of the way, we're going to have 4 10mm bolts. We've got one up here, one on the driver's side, one on the bottom, and then another one over here on the driver's side bottom. So we're going to start with this one up here. We're just going to work our way around pulling these out. And now that those are removed, we can go ahead and pull out the radio. And for the radio, you're just going to wiggle on both sides, and it'll come right out. And now we're just going to start disconnecting everything back here so we can pull the radio out fully. So for this connector right here, this is actually where our VLine's going to go. And for this one, it can be a little tough to get out sometimes, but you just need to push in on the clip right here in the middle. And I actually use a pry tool for this. It can make it a little easier. And once that's pushed in, you can just pull back on this lever and it'll come out. There we go. And now for the rest of these, it's just going to be a clip on top of them, right in the middle. So we're just going to pull all of these out. we go. So now we've got all these disconnected, and we'll move on to taking the display out next. So to get the display out, we're actually going to have to pull back on this cover here for the gauge cluster area. And it's also going to pull back on the trim for the start-stop button. So to do that, we're going to take our pry tool here, and I'm actually going to go towards the driver's side. And I'm going to get behind this cover up top and pull back. And we're going to do the same over here. There we go. And we don't need to fully remove this, we just want to pull it back just a little bit so we can pull out this other piece of trim below the display. So now that we've got this little bit of room over here, we can just go ahead and pry up on this piece of trim. And then that will just pull right out. And next we'll move on to pulling these two 10mm out so we can get the display out. So now to get the display out, we're just going to pull back on these two corners right here, and it'll pop out the two clips that hold it in right here, and the two more that are on the bottom. And from here, we're just going to unplug these two connectors, and then we're going to have to pop this little clip out right here, which is holding these cables connected to the display. So to get this clip out, we're going to use our pry tool, and we're just going to pry in on this little wing that's on the side. And once that's out, you'll see that side will come loose. And then from here, we're just going to pull up on it. And you can also use your pry tool on the back end of the clip, like this. There we go. And now we've got that loose, and we can go ahead and pull the display out. Alright, so we're ready to install our first harness here. It's going to be our MC Flex 789, and we're going to have our 59 pin connector that we're doing first, and that is the one that we disconnected at the beginning of the video when we uninstalled the radio. And you're just going to insert it fully, then you push down on the lever here, and it should click in when it's fully in place. Next we'll move on to the 16 pin connector, and it should be in the same kind of wire bundle as the 59 pin. And this one we're just going to insert into that side, and we're going to have these left over, which will connect back into the radio itself. And then lastly, we're going to have these connections here. It's our microphone plug for the VLine 2, and this will be our main harness for the VLine 2, so we'll route those to the glove box soon. Alright, so for the display, we're going to connect our GV9MF cable. And on here, we're going to have this connection, which we're going to run down the left side over here. And we're going to have these other two connectors, which will connect behind the display. And this is just going to plug in to this side. Oh, wait. Like that. And then our other end is what's going to go back into the display when we reinstall it. And now we're ready to run this down the passenger side here. And we're going to go back behind here around where the glove box is, and then we're going to reach from under in the radio cavity, and we're going to pull this out, so I'll show you that next. Alright, so as you can see in the back here, we just ran it straight down. We just dropped it through that channel that we showed earlier. And we're just going to reach back here and grab that. And we're just going to pull that into the radio cavity for now. And then we're going to run this with our power cable into the glove box for the VLine 2. So we're going to remove the glove box next here. We're going to be putting the VLine actually behind the glove box in this case and not in the glove box. And we'll show you that. But the first step is going to be pulling off this bottom cover down here, and that's below this airbag trim. And this just pries down. There's a few clips on it. And then there's going to be one plug right here. And then it pulls out. Now from here, we're going to have some 10mm that we need to get loose. And one of them is going to be back here. So we're just going to go ahead and pry this piece of trim off. There we go. We're going to have these two right here that we need to take out. Then we're gonna have some more over here on the driver's side of this panel. So on this side over here, we're gonna pop this piece of trim off. And it's actually just one clip down here. You pull it back towards you. And here that is the clip. And this is the part that you pull back. Next, we're gonna have this 10mm right down here. So we're gonna take that out. And once we've got that removed, we can take off the airbag right here. We're just gonna use a pry tool. We're gonna get right in between the glove box and the airbag trim. And we're just gonna pry back on it. There we go. So there's one clip over here, and then you kind of have to work your way down to get the other ones. There we go. As you can see here, this is the first clip, that's the second one, and then we've got two more over here on this side. And for this, we don't want to unplug this or mess with this at all, so we're just gonna lay that down. And next, we're going to take out a 10mm over here in the same area, and that's the last thing holding in the glove box other than some screws up top. So we're going to take out this 10mm down here, and once that's removed, we're going to move on to some Phillips head screws. We're going to have one over here. Then we're going to have another one that's right over here above that last 10mm we took out. And then lastly, we're gonna have three up top here. And once we've got all those removed, we can go ahead and pull the glove box out and just wiggle it. And the clips, the three on top here will come out. There's also gonna be some on the side. And we're gonna have to unplug these connectors over here next. Alright, so we've got another clip right here. It's just like the one on the display that we pulled loose earlier. It's just popped in right here. And you're just going to squeeze in on either one of these sides and pull it out. And then from here, we're just going to disconnect these plugs. There we go. And now we can fully take the glove box out and move on with the installation. Alright, so we're going to start running our wires back from the radio cavity to behind the glove box area. And for the display one here, when you run it through, you can actually pull it through so it's not through the radio cavity anymore. Originally, we just did that so that we could have it here and run them together. But after that, you can get it back here and actually zip tie it up with some of the wire harnesses. And we're going to do the same with the power harness here. Just push that through. And then we're going to try to take these and put them up top here. And we're going to wire manage this, and then our V-line is going to go back into this cavity back here. Alright, so lastly we need to install our GPS antenna. And we've already got the plug for the GPS antenna ran down the same way as the GV9MF here. And so we're going to go ahead and stick this, and we're just going to peel off the back here. And there's a spot right up here, if you can see, it's for one of the clips for a harness to plug into, but on top of it it's actually pretty flat along there, and it fits this perfectly, and it's just right below the dash. So we're going to center it on that, push down. And you just want to hold down on it for a few seconds just to make sure that the adhesive actually takes. And then we've got this little bit of slack left over that we're going to run to the side. And then now we're going to finish up our wire management and placement of the V-line. So we finished cable management and placing the V-line over here. We ran our GV9MF along the top up here and down with some of these wires. And then we met with this wire here and ran ours down and zip tied them along. Did a zip tie here, ran them up, and then another zip tie right here. And then these other wires that are going along here are our power harness, GPS antenna, and our USB. And we've got the V-line mounted right here. It fits right in between these two brackets here. So we've got it placed in here, and then we're also going to put another bracket on the bottom of it and zip tie it when we're finally done. But we're ready to test everything and then reinstall.
So now that we've tested everything, we're ready to put the glove box back in and begin reassembly. So we're going to put this clip back in that we took loose earlier. There we go. Then we're going to plug in the blue plug, which is going to be right over here. There we go. And the white plug right here. And now that those are in, this will go right up into place. And once everything's lined up, you can push it in and everything should click into place. So now we're going to put our 2 Phillips head screws back in on the bottom here. And then we've got one over here. And after those, we're going to put the 10mm in right over here. Then next, we're going to move on with the 3 Phillips head screws on top of the glove box up here. And now that those are in, we'll move on to down here. So now we're ready to put the airbag back in. And for this, we're just wanting to line up all the clips on either side. And as long as the holes for the 10mm match up and everything clicks into place, then we're ready to tighten it down. There we go. So we'll do the 2 10mm over here. And I'm going to hold up the bracket so that it's straight. And then our last one will be right over here. There we go. And lastly, we'll be putting in the trim on the bottom. And for this trim, we've got these 2 little notches right here, and those are going to go into the back. You'll see there's 2 squares for them back there. And you want to make sure you plug this back in for the light. And as long as it's all lined up, these clips, the 4 here, should go in. And then we're going to put the piece in over here lastly. And for this piece here, just going to insert the front first, and then you're just going to push in on the back and it should clip in. And then our last piece on this side is going to be this end piece right here, and we'll show you how to put that in next. So to get this piece back in on the side here, we actually have to pry this piece back just a little bit so we can get behind it. So pry off the top part, and then you're going to want to pry around the middle here. It's going to be a metal clip that holds that one in, so it might be a little more difficult. And then all we're going to do is take this piece here, and this back corner, we're just going to slide it behind here, like that. There we go. And as long as it's lined up on the bottom, it'll go into place. Just gotta lift it up a little. There we go. And once that's in, then this just lines back up and these push back into place as well. And lastly, with your pry tool, you just want to run along the weather stripping here to get that back on top. And now we'll move on to the radio and the display. So now we're ready to put in the display. We're going to set it upside down here, and we're going to go ahead and put this clip into place. There we go. And after that, we'll plug in this connector and our GV9MF. And once that's all in place, you're going to tilt it down. Make sure none of your cables hit the back of the trim, this little ledge. And after it's in place, we'll push down on the bottom and top. And as long as these 10mm line up here, it should be all in place. So now we're going to put in the two 10mm here. we go. And lastly, the trim that goes right here. I'm just gonna set this back into place. You might have to pull back on this just to get it in. But once it's lined up, you want the front clips all the way forward to go in first at an angle, and then you'll push down on the back side closest to you. And as long as it sits flush like that, you're all good. And then this trim for the gauge cluster just pushes right back in. So now we're ready to connect the radio, and we're going to start with our plugs at the bottom. We'll start with this one here. And as you're going through here and plugging these in, sometimes it's best to untangle them. Sometimes they can get a little tangled up even from the factory. And now we're going to move on to our cables. So for the 59 pin, it'll be just like when we plugged it into the other side of our harness. We're going to push it all the way in, push down on the lever. Then we'll do the 16 pin connector. And if you have this connector, make sure to plug it back in. I believe that's a 12 pin. And lastly, we're going to do these two plugs here. There we go. So now I've got everything plugged back in. And when you push this back in, it's best to put the V-line harnesses towards the bottom, or at least the T-harness connections. Sometimes they can be a little bulky and stop the radio from going back in. So we're going to see if putting them down there helped. It doesn't look like it did. So we're going to try putting them up a little bit. There we go. And once it's all lined up, you just push it in. And make sure your bottom clip's going as well. There we go. I'll put in those 4 10mm bolts along the bottom. Go. And now that those are in, we'll move on to the trim. So now we're ready to put this trim back into place here. First, we just need to connect all the connectors on the back. So we're going to start with this white one here. Go on the side. And the black one on the bottom here. And then we've got a smaller black one that's going to go up top. And then this plug will go to the mouse. So we'll leave that exposed. And then we're just going to set this down over the shifter. Make sure we have this plug out. And then we're going to insert the front 2 pins first, like that. And once those are in place, all the clips here should line up, so you can press down. There we go. Now we've got that in place, so we can go ahead and put in the mouse next. Alright, so for the mouse, that just plugs in right on the front here. And then we just need to make sure that we get this front piece right here down below the trim. And then it should just set down and click into place like that. And next we'll put on our side trim. So next we're going to put this trim in. This is on the passenger side. I've also got one for the driver's side as well. And all you want to do is line up your clips here. There we go. And push in. And now we'll do the driver's side next. There we go. Then we're going to have 3 screws on each one. So we're going to put these screws back into place here. There we go. And we'll do the same for the driver's side. Next we'll do this piece of trim here. This will be going in right here, and we've got 2 clips here, and then these go in horizontally. So we'll slide those front ones in first. There we go. And once they're lined up, they'll push in, and then the back 2 clips here should pop right in. We'll do the same for the driver's side here. The front clipped in. There we go, and back 2 clips. And then now we'll put the shifter knob back on. And the shifter knob will just set into place, and we'll spin that clockwise. There we go. And the boot just pushes right up and clips into place. And now we've got everything reassembled with the VLine installed.